So today I'm going to explain the topic of property division between married couples. Generally, it is a very simple concept to understand, but I do see my clients get very concerned or confused when they hear words such as equalization, property division, net family property, net worth, sworn financial statement, which are all tools and terminology that we use in order to determine the actual property division between married couples. However, the concept is very simple, and I will try to keep it very brief so that I don't get into too many details, exceptions to the rule. Those are things that, of course, you should look to a lawyer to obtain legal advice on because everything depends on your particular situation. So this is not legal advice. But the concept of property division between couples is very simple. And it's not what most people think. It's not one person owns a piece of property and the other person therefore has half the interest in that property. It does not work like that. Usually, and again, there's exceptions, but the rule is that what is in your name stays in your name. But there's a calculation that is done to determine the increase in net worth, so the increase of assets minus liabilities for each person between date of marriage and date of separation. So simply put, you look at each spouse's date of marriage net worth, which means assets minus liabilities. Very simply put, any property that you have, anything that you have in the bank, a car, all those values are together minus any liabilities, minus mortgage, credit card, any sort of debts are included, and you do the calculation that way, assets minus liabilities at the date of marriage. Once you have that figure, then you look at date of separation, which is called the valuation date. Again, that's a very confusing term for most people. Date of separation. So when the parties are no longer together, when there's a breakdown of the relationship, at that point, not when the parties actually move out, but again, that's something that you should obtain legal advice regarding. So date of separation, same thing, assets minus liabilities. You look at each person's net worth at the date of separation. Then you take date of separation minus the date of marriage. So what does that mean? You're basically looking at the increase from the date of marriage to the date of separation in net worth of each person, or it could be a decrease. So once you determine that increase or decrease, so date of marriage to date of separation, what is each person's net worth at date of marriage, date of separation, you compare those. Once you have the increase or decrease, then you compare it to the other spouse. So very simply put, an example would be, let's suppose one spouse has $100,000 at the date of marriage, the other spouse has $300,000 at the date of marriage. So in that case, they're a bit different, right, at the date of marriage. Now, the first spouse at the date of separation from $100,000 net worth, so assets minus liabilities, increases to, let's say, $500,000. So that means that first spouse's increase from date of marriage to date of separation is 500 minus 100, which gives you 400,000 increase. The other spouse went from 300 to, let's say, just for an example's sake, 700,000, okay? So they had the exact same increase. So 700 minus 300 for the second spouse is 400. So in that case, they have the exact same net worth for the purpose of property division, equalization, whatever you want to call it. So that means there's no payment flowing from one party to the other. Now let's assume the first spouse, instead of 500, increased to 700. So that means that spouse from 100,000 date of marriage went to 700,000 date of separation. That gives you 600,000 increase, correct? So 600,000 increase for the first spouse. The second spouse stays the same at 400,000. So the difference in increases is 600,000 minus 400,000. So that means the first spouse has $200,000 more than the other spouse. So you look at 200,000. And here's where that concept of split everything equally, property division, equalization, what you have is mine as well because we're married. This is where that comes in. Because now you look at 200,000, which is the difference between the parties, and you're trying to equalize that. or you're trying to basically make sure that the parties are equal with regard to their properties. So the 200,000 difference gets split in half. So now you have 100,000. 200 divided by 200,000, which means the spouse number one, who has more net worth, pays to the other spouse $100,000. Again, this is subject to many different rules and exceptions. One of the major ones being matrimonial home. The matrimonial home is fully included, so if spouse one owned it at the date of marriage, it wouldn't we wouldn't look at its value and increase from date of marriage. You would look at its whole value. But I will not get into the details. I do not want to confuse people too much. All you have to know is the general concept is increase in value. You look at the difference in the people's net worth, date of marriage, date of separation, and then the difference between them, you divide in half. The example was very good. It illustrates exactly the concept of property division. So there you have it. It's a bit different than what most people think I would say. And based on my experience, the best way to look at this is just put down some numbers and, of course, obtain some legal advice as well. It's very important because your situation might be completely different than just this very basic example. Thank you. I hope this was very useful.